from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the CyberHub podcast, our fourth and final episode for this week before we get back to our normal show. So typically at this time, every single morning, we talk about the latest cybersecurity news, the practitioner point of view to them, and how to mitigate or deal with said news. However, given the fact that it's Passover week, I went on break. Now, I've had to re-record this episode because this episode's about tariffs, and that's been a very, very dynamic situation. So we've cleared it up. We're pre-recording it for all of y'all here, re-recording it, to be honest. We pre-recorded it right when tariffs hit and last week, and I've actually had to come out of Passover break for just a little bit to re-record this episode as we've updated a whole bunch of information into it. So I hope you're ready, buckled in, tuned in. Let's talk about, I can't talk this morning. I've been off for too long. All right. So let's talk a little bit about cybersecurity technology, global trends, and the latest on U.S. tariffs, their fallout on global trade, and the implications for cybersecurity practitioners. From trade disputes to AI-driven cyber threats, these tariffs are reshaping some of our geopolitics and technology. But how do they impact us as practitioners? Is there a chance here to bolster defenses, or are we inviting new risks? We'll break it down, balancing opportunities with challenges, and I'll give you a lot of insights into what we're talking about here. So let's start off with what's driving these tariffs. So President Trump has made it his campaign promise to bring out an economic reset and some sort of economic revival in the U.S. There's two sides to this coin. I don't think either one of them is realistic. So I'm just going to say there's a middle point here that I don't think it's being communicated, but nonetheless, it's there. The aggressive tariff rolled out by President Trump. It's kind of like 4D chess game that everyone tried to play. Let's be real. President Trump is pragmatic. I'm going to buy that because he said that in the White House. He said, we saw what was happening to the bond market. We saw what was happening to the stock market. We understood the threat of recession, and we've changed away our tariff plan. So they've postponed tariffs by 90 days to every country but China. I'm fine with that. China now has been slapped with, I think, 245% tariffs on Chinese goods. That's a given. That's going to push and diversify the supply chain. Now, the stated aim here is to boost U.S. manufacturing. Now, are we going to go back to being a country with manufacturing and a whole bunch of stuff? No, this is a power play by President Trump. This really is the power play. Is one, we want to have critical manufacturing in the U.S. All other manufacturing could be wherever we want it to be, but we definitely don't want to be 100% reliant on China like the supply chain is today. We want to counter trade deficit, and we want to prioritize economic security and rising geopolitical tensions. But it's also about tech dominance and global power. China steals IP in the dozens. Mr. Wonderful from the Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, talked about this in an interview recently with CNN. He goes, I do business in China. China steals our IPs. I can't go through their courts. I can't do anything about it. They steal my IP, they remanufacture it and sell it for pennies to the dollar against my business. Hence why we pay a premium for brands. Markets became jittery because of these supply chain disruptions, supplying fears of a broader trade war. Meanwhile, some people are doubling down on sovereignty, racing to control AI, semiconductors, and critical infrastructure, like President Trump is urging the U.S. to do. Now, we as cybersecurity practitioners are reading into this and going, well, how did this ripple to me? What's its impact to me? Well, there's a whole bunch to it. I want to start off by talking about the upside for cybersecurity. One of those things is supply chain diversification, right? So if we go down the path of supply chain diversification here, there's a lot to talk about. And here's where it all kind of comes together. Think about most semiconductors being produced in Taiwan. Well, if China decides to invade Taiwan, those semiconductors would no longer be available to the free market, meaning our cars, our phones, computers, washing machine, refrigerators, anything you use today has some sort of semiconductor in it that would no longer be available, and that would be really, really bad for the global economy. So by diversifying semiconductor, we're actually diversifying our supply chain, therefore reducing our supply chain resilience, or dependency. Sorry. Now, is this going to make us better? I don't think so. Specifically meaning, I think the greater the supply chain is, the more risks inherently come from it. We don't want to be 100% reliant on Taiwan, but we also have to understand the risks that come with diversification of supply chains. We'll get into those in just a minute. I think the big one here is innovation is going to get a boost. A lot of disruption in manufacturing, and a lot of these things are going to come into play. AI driven threat detection, open source security tools, startups that have been kind of struggling against cheap imports now actually have a shot, especially with federal incentives like the CHIPS Act 2.0 fueling a lot of domestic R&D. Third of all, there's the geopolitical realignment. We've all for years talked about the Chinese threat, the fact that we still get our servers and a lot of our hardware from China, the fact that we don't even know if there's any backdoors. There's no physical, feasible way for us to check every single one of those boards that comes from China to make sure it doesn't have a backdoor. So by realigning some of these supply chains, we're actually deepening existing cyber alliances. We're also helping reduce the hardware physical backdoor threat to our critical infrastructure or significant areas from places like China. There's a lot of support for this, by the way. Like a survey we did on X showed like an 82% support for US made technology over Chinese made technology, even if it costs a little bit more. So that was a big thing, is people are willing to spend a little bit more money to know they don't have the back doors. That's peace of mind for us as cybersecurity practitioners. I can see that. But I want to talk a little bit about the nightmare. Tariffs are upending some of these supply chains, and they're introducing a tangle in cybersecurity risks we simply can't ignore. Moving production in new countries, whether it's reshoring to the US or friend shoring to places like Mexico or India, sounds like a win for resilience, but in practice, it's a logistical and security nightmare. New suppliers means new factories, new subcontractors, new software systems. Every single one of those introduces new risks. Cybersecurity practitioners, these risks introduce fresh links in the chain, often lacking the robust security protocols of some established vendors. They create and introduce new vulnerabilities to our ecosystem. And then auditing these networks is a Herculean task simply because there's so many of them happening simultaneously. This isn't 5 new vendors a quarter. This could be a potential of hundreds or thousands of new vendors within a quarter, meaning it's a very heavy lift for teams to take care of. A 2025 CISA report warned that rushed supplier onboarding increased the risk of supply chain poisoning, where attackers infiltrate a vendor to slip malicious code or even hardware into products. Smaller companies with little cybersecurity budgets are especially exposed since they can't afford the tool and they don't have the expertise to monitor complex supply chains. Then there's the human factor. New suppliers often mean new employees ramping up and scaling much quicker, which introduces untrained people in spotting specific risks that exist in older organizations that have the blood, sweat, tears, and marks of it. A single compromised credential could open the door. A single compromised individual could open the door. And with tariffs inflating costs, businesses may cut corners on security training or even monitoring in order to meet the supply chain demands. And here's a 2024 supply chain redux. Let's look at a parallel of what it stakes. In 2024, a major US retailer reliant on Chinese made IoT devices for its inventory systems scrambled to switch to a Vietnamese suppliers after tariff hikes. The new supplier's firmware, sourced from an unvetted subcontractor, contained a backdoor that went undetected for months. Cyber threat actors exploited it to deploy ransomware, locking the retailer's system and costing her nearly $50 million in downtime and recovery. Some posts from industry insiders later revealed the supplier had no cybersecurity audits in place, a direct result of the rush pivot driven by trade pressures. So I want to kind of take us down this journey here real quick. Let me walk you through this. This is the kind of flow chart here. Tariffs lead to trade wars, which lead to supply chain shifts, which lead to cyber risks and opportunities, which can reshape our ecosystems all in one. And if you don't have good TPRM relationships, if you're not intertwined in that process, you're going to find yourself chasing your own tail very quickly. So as a practitioner, you definitely want to go back to that approach. So what are some of our takeaways? We want to diversify supply chains. We want to reduce geopolitical risk, but without rigorous homework. So let's talk a little bit about this here. And I really want to kind of go down this path, right? So let's talk a little bit about the opportunities in this fragmented world. We're obviously seeing India, Taiwan, and Vietnam really step up to fill the Chinese gap that gap is, and these new companies are going to kind of boost into this fragmented work. But we're talking about a high stakes gamble. First, trade wars often fuel retaliation. When countries face economic hits, like China's agricultural sector, they don't just slap on tariffs, they weaponize cyber tools. Some posts on X highlighted fears of Chinese state hackers targeting US critical infrastructure like power grids and hospitals. I personally don't think that's going to be the case. They're not going to go after critical infrastructure unless their backs are fully up against the wall. There is an off ramp that's being put in place, an off ramp for the Chinese to come in and negotiate under fairer terms, but the Chinese are not going to bend. It's issue with Chinese culture of saving face. Second, these costs are going to skyrocket, and when they do, tariffs are going to inflate prices for a whole bunch of stuff. Think of firewalls or anything else. Small businesses already stretched might skip critical updates or opt for cheaper, less secure options. Law enforcement, cybercrime units facing budget crunch could struggle to keep up with some of the exploitation that may take place here. All of these are very, very difficult things, and it's part of the high stake gamble of what's going on with these tariffs and its impact on cybersecurity. Finally, tech fragmentation. As nations build their own ecosystems, China with its AI stack and EU with GDPR compliant clouds, we risk incompatible security standards. Coordinating a global response is one really critical thing. We have to get rid of digital silos. Now, here's the thing. GDPR to me is not regulation. It's a way for European governments to find companies that use the Irish tax system as a way to play it, because in reality, I've yet to see a GDPR case have any sort of merit and any real impact on users. Now, I might be wrong here, and if I am, let me know in the comments, let me know in the notes. Happy to have that. But with tariffs being a high stakes bet, cybersecurity is at the front line. So now let's talk about some strategies. And I've put those in bullet points. I know how much y'all love these. First, lock down your supply chain. You have to vet every vendor with rigorous audits. A SOC 2 Type 2 is not a security audit. It's a contractual sign off to reducing risk. What you want to do is you want to jump on as many calls as you possibly can with your new supply chain. You kind of want to get an idea of the brain trust that's standing there in infrastructure, security, or tech in order to understand, do they understand the risks and how are they planning to address them? It doesn't need to be perfect today, but you need to understand that there's a path going forward before you sign off on the risk to the business, right? So that's one. You want to invest in third-party risk management monitoring. There's a bunch of different tools out there to do just that. And you don't just want to monitor the tech side of the house. You also want to help monitor the financial side of the house as well, and the supply chain of your supply chain when it comes to potential active components or open source tools that are being used. You also want to amp up your threat intel. This is a really big one. A lot of these tensions are going to rumor a lot of different things around the threat intel space. So you want to pay attention to a lot of this stuff. Running tabletop exercises, running drills to mimic a lot of these environments is now a smart time to do it. Then you want to push for global cooperation. Many of us work in global companies. Tariffs could divide trade, but cybersecurity is a unifier. Look for your partners overseas that are part of your organization to help solidify part of the fractures that you may find in the new supply chain. Who do I know within my supply chain that can help me better understand the dynamics or the culture of what I'm trying to get information from? How do I interpret an answer given to me that is not very clear? All of those things matter. You want to build those cyber packs. You want to look at your security partners as a tool. Finally, we want to really nail down the basics. And this is where it gets there. One, obviously, security training, but also strong base. The CIS Top 20, everyone knows here I'm a big fan of it. And then your third-party risk management controls. All of these matter and will help build resilience. Now, this tariff, the tech rivalry, I don't think this is going away anytime soon, right? This is another 90 days, potentially 180 days, or could take till the end of the year. There is a game of chicken being played here. The game of chicken on the China end is they realize President Trump is on a timeline. That timeline is the end of this year. After the end of this year, we enter midterms. At that point, it becomes much, much more critical to get these deals done. President Trump has given a 90-day reprieve for every other nation but China, meaning he's going to allow for a lot of deals to sign to have big wins here before the end of the summer. And this is something that as cybersecurity practitioners, we ought to urge our business to look at. How do we go about securing that part of the business and with these new partners and trade nations? A lot of them are not new to us. We've all done business with Taiwan, Vietnam, the Philippines, Cambodia, India, and so many other friendly nations that really the disruption there is going to be minimal. The question is, how do we wean off the Chinese supply chain? And that has a whole nother set of issue. And building up manufacturing is no easy feature. Some of this may involve having to actually do physical on-site visits overseas to really, really critical new suppliers that are coming in, walk their factory, see their security controls. I've done that in my current role. It's really, really effective to help you kind of get an idea of the culture around the organization and the security standards that go about it. Again, resilience is key here. This is a chance for pushing for a diversification of our supply chain, which is really, really important as well. We shouldn't just buy from China. And if we bought 100% from China, maybe we now buy 20% from China, 30% from India, 50% from Vietnam, just as an example. All of those come into play. Different risks that come in. It helps you reduce your threat landscape, not increase it, and I'll explain why. When you have trusted vendors, they become part of your cycle. When you have untrusted vendors, they become vetted. And as you vet them and you mature them as their customer, you make them more resilient, which means you're diversifying and creating a resilient supply chain for the business. That's a huge win. That's a bullet point in the board meeting for cybersecurity practitioners. That's it for this show. On Monday, we'll be back live at 9 a.m. Eastern with the latest cybersecurity news. I'm so excited. I hope y'all had a great week. I hope you enjoyed this content. Please let me know your thoughts. And if you like it, maybe it'll become something we'll do once a month or so. And if not, that's also okay. Thank you so much for sticking through. Until next time, have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.